So yun, nakita niyo yung montage. That was 120p, 120 FPS versus 60 FPS for slow motion. So what is up everyone, jrafaelaflores here, and for today's episode is I will just share to you some pros and cons of shooting 60p versus 120p. Kasi tapos na tayo dun sa 4K versus 1080p, and I think there's some nagustuhan and then there's some who disagreed big time. Disclaimer muna, this is solely based on my own opinion, and there's some na sinabi din ni Peter McKinnon kasi siya yung nauna. So number one, 120p cannot shoot with audio. Meaning, walang audio sa 120p. If I were to, there's just some people who vlogs or who does videos, talking heads, or anong klaseng video at 60p. So, yan yung parang downside talaga ng 120p. Well, sa phone, meron kasing audio sa iPhone. And some other phones, merong audio yung 120p. Parang slow motion na sound effect. And kumbaga, how I wish na pwede yan sa mga mirrorless or mga DSLR natin dyan na may audio yung 120p. Pero no, there's no audio sa 120p. Sa 60p lang meron. So yun, that was my point number one. 120p FPS, 120 FPS is walang audio. Point number two naman is sa 120p, you can use or shoot less. Kasi sa isang timeline mo, pag isa-slow down mo yung sequence na yan, shot at 120p, marami ka nang makukuha in between that single or that same shot mo dyan, cut mo dyan, and you can maximize one shot dahil 120p siya. Ang haba ng timeline mo yan. So you could just grab some sa simula, sa dulo, or whichever you would prefer. So yun, yan ang advantage din ng 120p is marami kang makagamit within the same shot. Next, downside naman to sa 120p FPS or 120 FPS is you need tons of light kasi yun nga, double the shutter speed, meaning yung shutter speed mo is at 240 or 250 of a second, meaning mabilis yung shutter mo, so you would need tons of light. Now, if you are shooting on broad daylight, walang problema. But if you are shooting indoors, dyan yung parang may konting-konting problema tayo dyan. You need tons of light, kailangan mo na malalaking ilaw and whatnot, kasi if not, 120 FPS shot at 240 shutter speed is your footages will be noisy. Versus si 60p naman, if you are shooting indoors, medyo wala kang problema dyan kasi yung shutter speed mo is just at 120 shutter speed. So, I think mas okay talaga if you're gonna shoot 60p indoors. That is just based on my own opinion. Ang hirap kasi if 240 yung shutter speed mo plus nasa loob ka. Next point naman is by far the most important siguro or pinakamalaking factor to when you have a 120 FPS camera is the stability. Kasi no matter how slow or how fast you are, if you slow down your clip to 20% sa timeline mo, that thing is, or that shot is going to be stable as F. Pero if 60p yan, medyo yung mga micro jitters mo and the shakes of your camera is makukuha pa rin niya. So you would have add some warp stabilizer or anong klase ba yung editor mo. Isa-stabilize mo yan in post, which is an extra step, especially if you are editing sa Adobe Premiere. Maglalagay ka pa ng NES and then you're gonna warp stabilize. So that's the fourth point. 120p, very much stable. 60p naman, additional step. And the last pro and con or point of this video is that majority of the cameras which has 120 FPS costs higher, mas mahal. So, like me, I started with a Canon M50. Meron siyang 120 FPS, pero at 720p. Correct? Still HD, but not full HD. We're just arguing about 4K versus 1080p. So, parang out of the picture na si 720p. So, that's one thing you should consider. Majority of the cameras, starter cameras, or for beginner cameras, is wala pong 120p or FPS. So, if you have the right budget or may budget ka, money is not an issue, please go ahead with the 120 FPS camera. But nonetheless, 60p or 60 FPS is still good enough. You just have to play around for stability or optical flow or whatnot for better outputs during post-processing. So I think that's it for this quick video. I hope may natutunan kayo and I hope you will subscribe, like, and share. God bless. Stay safe. Peace.